Welcome to The Voiceover with your host, Dee Foster III, where we discuss relevant topics that affect the culture with bold, independent commentary. Get ready to be inspired, enlightened, and encouraged.
Welcome to the Voice of the Net podcast. I'm your host, Dee Foster III, CEO and President of Wake Up Global Networks International. It's time for a brand new show. Make sure you like, subscribe, share. Happy New Year to you and your family. Hope you had a fantastical year because it is going to be, it's going to be very explosive this year. And I'm telling you right here on this show, we're going to get into some things. You know the spill at the beginning. Make sure you like, subscribe, you share, you follow, you do all the fun stuff. And then follow me on social media. That's my X and my IG, DJ Change 111, DJ Change 111. And if you follow me on IG, there's a link to our lit Patreon community. Listen, you don't want to miss lit Patreon. I drop exclusive videos in Patreon, and I tell stuff in Patreon that I don't tell you on the regular platforms. But anyway, that's not a lore. That's just a fact. And then if you follow me on X, you can get my Spreaker, Pluto Connection, and Spiritual Ears Only. All right. I want to say shout out to owner and operator April J of WPPMediaNetworks.com and her lovely mom, Pastor Maple Hall. And we want to wish you all a happy New Year also. I am so excited. Wait a minute. What is that? Oh, all right. I was just looking at something. I'm so excited to be back with you. Part number 10, when church goes wrong, when ambition trumps the mission. And I want to say thank you for all of your support. I want to say thank you. And before I get started, let me ask you a few questions. You want to know more about us? Go follow us on our social media, our website, and that is www.wakeupglobalnetworks.com, www.wakeupglobalnetworks.com, or you can go to our social media. That is Wake Up Global Media, Wake Up Global Media, all of that stuff you can find on the website. I got so much stuff I got to remember. I can barely remember my own social media, let alone Wake Up social media, but I guess it's Wake Up Global TV, something like that. Yeah, it's something like that. Something like that. I want to say shout out to all of our followers, all of our fan favorites. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being loyal and being supportive through 2025. And now we're in 2026, the number 1 year, but I won't get into that right now. You have to go on Patreon where I talk about Anyway, you just got to go on the Patreon to get that. All right. I want to say thank you so much for this series. We started off with Mahogany down in Texas as her not hugging her pastor went wrong, and the pastor got up and the pastor put her out of the church and he protected his wife. And we talked about when church goes wrong, and sometimes you just got to take an L and save what can be saved. And then we moved up the road to Reverend Dr. H.B.J. Hicks in the Metropolitan. Oh, by the way, their historic minister of music that's been for years. Our condolences to the family and the singers of the late, great Richard Smallwood. He was at Metropolitan Baptist Church for years and years and years, and I have a little private secret I've never shared publicly, but he even played briefly for my dad's church in D.C., Mount Sinai Baptist Church. I think this was before I was born, but I did see some pictures of him and my dad. And his father was the pastor of the great Reverend Dr. Willie Wilson's church now in Washington, D.C. So he is from the Washington, D.C. area like Weeze is, but our condolences go out to Richard Smallwood and his family, his mother. He was very close to his mother. His mother transitioned several years ago, maybe been 8 or 9 years ago, and he took it very, 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 very hard. We know Maurette Brown Clark is very close to Richard Smallwood. She sang on his the Richard Smallwood Singers years. I don't know if she was still there, but I do know that for a very, very fact. It's a lot of stuff I know for a very, 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 very fact, and that's why I encourage you to subscribe. Not gossip, not junk, just stuff that has never been mentioned. So we talked about Reverend Dr. H.B. Hicks in the Metropolitan church failing to build in Largo. When church goes wrong, they moved out of the Shaw community. And now they're in Mercantile Lane somewhere in a, no pun intended, in a business park. So then several weeks ago, I brought you up to me. I brought you up to Park Heights Avenue. I brought you to Banneker, our first spot. I want you to like this. I want you to share this. I want you to subscribe. Again, when church goes wrong, when ambition from submission. I brought you to Banneker, and I've been very honest with you. I'm not going to be honest with everybody else and not just simply be honest with you. There is no way in the world I'm going to do that. And like I often say, and I often mean, that my greatest ability, my greatest ability in what I do is not basically, hold on one second. What does it say? In other words, I'm not no Dr. Mike Murder. I can't tell you if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is going to work and it'll blow you up. My greatest ability, and why I have been through so many things, I know my mistakes. And those who are connected with me, I say, I don't think that'll work. I've tried that and it did not work. So I give you this because when church goes wrong, and I said in a post that I did on IG, 16 turbulent years of pastoring my first church, but it was only preparing me to pastor my second and my third, which I think I made their greatest. I really enjoyed. I had learned so much. I had been through so much. I was a much patient man. I was a much temperate man. I was a lot more understanding man than I was when I first started during my first church. So anyway, I left you off last time. We came up through Banneker. We came up through Baltimore National Pike. We came through the growth. We came through Park Heights Avenue, which I believe was the apex of what I was doing. I even mentioned on my clip that we tried to buy the Jehovah's Witness building across the street, and it was bought from under us, and how traumatic that was. I mean, we had people gathered together. They gave, they sold, and I offered to give the money back. And I want to say that churches came and they gave. Living Word was one of them. Apostle David, he brought his church one year when they were on Ricestown Road, and they gave and they supported. And to my chagrin, the realtor said that there's a church that has outbidded you. And so guess what I did? And guess what I did? Now, I'm not sure if I would do that today, to be honest with you. Like to share this. But I went and sold, in all my hurt and all my pain after that happened, I went and sold a $500 seed to their building fund. I'm not sure I would do that today, but that's what I did. That's what I did back then, because that's where I was. So that leads me to people saying, well, you know, God had better. God had better. Now, just to be honest with you, I never believed we didn't get across the street. God had better for us downtown. I think downtown came available. You know how we spiritualize everything, and we want to make sure everything is everything, and we say, well, you know, I think God had better. No, I don't believe that. I believe we were meant to stay on Park Heights. I just was not a sharp. I just wasn't sharp of a businessman then. I am now, right? So I mean, I'm thinking God is going to give us the building. We're doing, we're speaking to the winds. We're speaking to everybody. We're speaking to everything. And yet the building was brought from, it was sold from inchy ways. That opened the door for us to move and find this facility, because I gave you the background of the area where we were worshiping at, and I didn't have enough office space. And at that time, we were really, really, really growing. And I saw a vision. 1,000 people, right? Not that they ever came, 100 ever came, but you don't help to see, right? So then the door opened to move downtown. I walked you through that, and here's where I think I left off. Now, here's what I want to be true. I believe that downtown came open. I do not believe that we were stopped from getting across the street to go downtown, right? No, I always believe, even until now, hindsight, we would have thrived had we stayed on Park Heights. Why is that? Because my vision for my ministry has always been and always will be an outreach ministry, a ministry to people. And of course, that was Park Heights. That's where we saw the most people. We had outreaches, we had street ministry, we had cookouts, we had musical, bringing artists outside. There was an empty parking lot. You know, Spalding, if you're in DMV, Spalding in Park Heights, there's an empty bank parking lot that people used to park and walk across the street and walk across drug needles and walk across. But guess what? We had a presence in the community. And then comes downtown. Now, here it is, right here. And this is where I left you. Downtown brought a different perspective to Bread of Life. Downtown calls Bread of Life to see an aura that they had not seen in the first, what? I think we were like, what, when we moved downtown? We were like maybe 13 years old. It brought a different perspective that we had never seen in the 13 years of our existence. Number one, I was consecrated when I was downtown. That brought a whole nother perspective. Now, because most of the people from Bread of Life were not previous church people. They were people that were in the street. They were people, and I just had that anointing to attract non-church people, because remember, at Bread of Life, it was a non-traditional church. I did not lean heavy on doctrine, right? And so there were people who said, you know what? I'm not in the church. I'll come to Bread of Life. This man talking what I can understand, and he real, and he wearing shorts, and he wearing, a hat, and dressing regular. Move downtown to a monumental, beautiful cathedral. Just presence changes you don't feel like you could walk into Cathedral in Franklin Street on Sunday, even though people did, right? But I'm talking about from my perspective, with this what must it have been, 500, including the balcony, and if you put chairs down the aisle, auditorium, historic building on the corner, pipe organ in the balcony, right? I wanted to talk about all the dynamics of ministry and how I could have and should have prepared Bread of Life to move into that dynamic after being in mostly warehouses. I'm not saying it was their actions. I'm saying the whole texture of the ministry change. So now we're either in schools, we're either in warehouse. Hold on, let me see here. Here's something. So we've been in schools, we've been in warehouses, we've been in this regular office parks. So there was an atmosphere, right? You felt like you could come. Now you walk downtown to this grand cathedral, and in it there was a pipe organ. In it there was big old pulpit. In it there was big old podium. This sets a different dynamic. This says church. This says high church. But wait a minute. You don't know nothing about that. I'll do something about it because I grew up in Metropolitan. But the masses of people, not all, but most, because I had a young generation, the masses of people weren't used to. They were used to greet us. We went to ushers. Now I'm consecrated. Now there's regalia. Now there's a protocol. All of that besides a new unfriendly location. Talk about when church goes wrong. Unfriendly. Share this, y'all. Probably going to be a part 11. An unfriendly location. Because remember, I left off by saying When New Psalmists moved up in the Edmondson Village area to expand their ministry and their ministry reach, they moved at a time when the downtown Social Security office was closing. They moved at a time where regentification was taking place. And they moved at a time, here's the key, in O'Malley, when redistricting was taking place. So where our people were used to going out on Saturday and evangelizing, where our people were used to having picnics, where our people were used to having bands, where we used to have actors come in, where we used to set up a stage, where we used to play loud music, that was not permitted downtown. So we were like a fish. Now, at the time, I didn't recognize. I was so enamored with finally being in the church location and finally trying to be accepted and finally, coming into my own. And then we were consecrated, and then it brought in big speakers. And then, I didn't notice the temperature. I did not notice, and I should have paid more attention to the temperature of what was going on, because now everything had to fit surroundings. And whether you know it or not, you could say, you could go in there and continue the same thing. I don't know what it is, but the surroundings demand certain. The surroundings demand. There was a cathedral. Who sits on the cathedral? A bishop. I'm just saying. So all of this and all of that and all of this, plus the neighborhood. The neighborhood was turning Caucasian, and the University of Maryland was buying up property to put their internists and their doctors that did not look like us. Out of the 3 years that we were downtown, I can remember one failed outreach. It was a health fair. The hell you need a health fair downtown? But we were only going, we were only going off of what we knew and what we did prior that work. Now we make too much noise. I remember one, which on Park Heights, we always had a 3-day something. Back then that was 3-day inner city breakthrough, because I really believe I was called to the inner city, but a certain type of inner city. Well, downtown was the inner city. It wasn't the kind of inner city that I was particularly called to, because I've always been in any church I had. I've always been called to do more than be there on a Sunday morning. Always had to be outreach. I got that from my dad. That's what helped build his church at Wheeling Baptist Church. And I always said, and even said while he was here, he wasn't the greatest preacher. He wasn't the greatest orator. He was a hell of a pastor. He loved people, and he knew the principles reaching beyond 4 walls. And that's part of what made his tenure successful. And that's part of what made us successful on Park Heights. We lost when we went downtown. Now, it's nobody's fault. It's not the members' fault. It's not the prior owner's fault. I told you that I should have done more of my homework. I was just under the opinion. Let's be honest. Share this. Come on, y'all. Share this. You're getting it from me. I was under the opinion that if you build it, they would come. Well, that was not happening. I felt like because we were growing in Park Heights, I went downtown, then we would continue to grow. Not understanding that, or understood, but for location, when God gives you an assignment, he gives you it in a geographical location. I believe had we been able to get no blame, this is years behind. I'm just telling the story. It's years behind. I believe if we were able to get the building across the street from us, we would have continued to grow and fill that building with that neighborhood. That's the kind of, and I mean, we were genuine. I mean, listen, what I say on Park Heights, we had so much respect. No cars were ever broken into. No church, nobody ever threatened us at our church. We had security on the corners that they highly, highly respected. The drunks, the drug addicts, they would come in the church, sit in the back. They wouldn't make noise. We would feed them. And I believe, had I stayed on Park Heights, it would have been, and it takes transparency because and I'm not blaming anybody. I was the leader, and I always say the leader is you only rise and fall. The leader is the led. I was the led. That we would have been another ministry had I remained in the Park area because that was the mission. Ambition to be bigger trumped the mission. Wow. Ambition trumped the mission. I mean, it was great. It was great notoriety. We raised them. We had a banquet. And Bishop Jordan then came and raised 10 grand. We got the down payment. We got the building so easy with the help of that I knew we were supposed to be there. That's how easy we got the building. The money came. The money came. The money came. But the people didn't come. So now I'm stuck just having church. There's no effective outreach. I don't remember to look. Excuse me, earlier. There's no effective outreach. There are no new people joining. We're known among the politicians downtown. So we have special services, special days. You want a big auditorium. Minister Farrakhan came. I mean, we had those in-house moments. But I was always called to do more than that. Outreach. Now, I'm not saying we didn't get one or two people downtown, but again, downtown was in transition, security, which really would agree, especially the noonday service, New Psalmist while they were downtown, and a lot of people joined New Psalmist. Quite a few people joined New Psalmist from that midweek service, Social Security, and now none of that. It's almost like a freaking ghost. Literally, then we end up with freaking parking issues. Almost sound like Metropolitan. You're going to be ticketed. The hell was I thinking? Oh, boy, I tell you. When church goes wrong. So, let me conclude like this, share this. I'm finally discouraged. Finally, the money, because now our members are trying to fit in. I'm doing a lot more traveling because, to be honest with you, when there's no growth, and I don't mean numerical, when I can't feel fulfilled in what we're doing, then I don't give it all of what I got. And there came a time when I felt And of course, there are more. And I hope this helps somebody who thinks you want something so bad. And that something you want so bad ends up not being so good because it compromises. Now, at the time, I had to be honest. I didn't know that we weren't going to be able to do outreach. Like I told you, I didn't do my thorough studies. All I knew, there's a building available. Today, I would go and survey the land and ride around and take note of the environment and ask questions and talk to people. See, is this a good fit for us? All I knew is I wanted to get out of that warehouse into a place that was suitable for worship. And I went downtown. So there became a time when we just started like having church. There was nothing else pretty much going on. We just started having church. Now, let me say this, like this. Come on, y'all. At the same time, am I going to put the rest of this on Patreon or do a call? I'll let you know when I get to the end of this. The more I talk, the more that I think is relevant. At the same time, I'm feeling as though my pastorate is being transitioned from pastor, and at the same, I'm feeling this transition from pastor to more of overseer, spiritual coach, pushing people, helping people, training. That brings on another element. See, when I transitioned out of Bread of Life, it was because I felt my days of pastoring were over. Nobody put me out. I didn't leave. And I've always been sensitive to times and seasons in my life. The problem is, it's not like today. People transition all the time. Pastors are transitioning every week, but they have a model. I did not. You got to remember, this was in the early 2000s. You didn't find people giving up their churches like that. I did not have a model. Nobody was doing it. Nobody did it. I was one of the first to say, my pastor days are over. And now we know how to do it. But in 2002, all I knew is the grace had lifted. I did not feel this was my calling. I'm out. Now, today, if I were to do it, it would be done a whole different way, because I wasn't thinking about legacy. I wasn't thinking about staying there. I wasn't thinking about still being a part. That wasn't my thinking. And even to this day, that still wouldn't be my thinking. I'm done with something. That's just me. That don't mean it's the right way. When I'm done, I'm done. I don't hang on to anything or anyone that I'm done with, for the good or the bad, ever when you choose to make it. I was done. I was done. The grace had lifted. Again, like when I started Bread of Life, there was no roadmap or mentor. People were telling me, don't do it. And I'm thinking, I don't have the grace to do this. You have to have the grace and in any office. The grace switch to another calling. Yeah, I'm gonna put this in Patreon. I don't know. Tune in next week. I don't know. Flow. The grace done. But everybody still had their churches. Everybody was still pastoring. I didn't know one person I related to who had done that successfully. You said, well, maybe you shouldn't have did it. No, I should have did it because I wasn't feeling it no more. And I ain't never been able to stay in nothing I ain't feeling. That's the difference. You say, well, it didn't benefit. No, it didn't benefit me financially. It didn't benefit me outwardly, but it hella benefited me spiritually because I knew I went up there faking in front of people every week, trying to act like I was one way and not another way. But what I learned later was, okay, let's take this slow. But you say, but you had 2 other churches since then. Yes. Because I learned some things from the one and a gap in between looking at modeled in New Orleans success. So I was able to carry that into the second, into the third. While I still felt like part of the grace had lifted, but it's like temporary turbo grace for those 2. Now, I know you got I opened up a lot of Pandora's box, but this is the truth you never heard. Because people, you went bankrupt. We were having financial challenges, but I didn't leave because of the money. Of course not. Were we having challenges? Yeah, after a while. Yeah, because my energy did not remain there. Come on, y'all like this. You ain't gonna find too many leaders that sit like that. And you notice I ain't mentioned the devil one time in this series. He had nothing to do with it. Me. Like this. So finally, and I'm leaving out a lot of details. Church goes wrong when ambition trumps. Finally, we sell downtown to pay off all the debt. At that time, we had accumulated a lot of debt. It takes a lot of money to run a building. 2 gas and electric bills. We had 2 heating bills because we had 2 buildings, in essence, like a parsonage that we use for offices and etc. in the church sanctuary. So we had 2 of everything. We had steam, heat, and we had gas. I mean, it takes sometimes I wonder how we even did it for the first 3 years. It was a miracle. It was only after the last year that we started having the financial challenges and getting behind, because now the whole dimension of ministry had changed. And remember, because we weren't doing outreach, it wasn't growing. So we were just maintaining, kind of maintain kind of guy. So we put the building on the market and it sold quickly. Now, I didn't make any money. You can check the financial record. We were to the point where anything we made off the sale, we had to catch up on mortgages and our second payment to the previous church owners. That's all record. So now, and there's some other stuff that I won't get into that happened in the internet that's not edifying, so I won't. But let me skip through all of that. And the only reason I say that is because there are going to be some missing pieces. But the missing pieces, I'm not going to bring up missing pieces, right? Let missing pieces lie where it lies. So I'll never forget it. I'm sitting home in my office, planning what's next. And I get a telephone call from Darrell Brister, who had preached on Cathedral in Franklin, because he said he had me, and I believe this, in his spirit. And what he told me next, you got to tune in for the next. I think because now I'm moving into New Orleans, this will go into the picture, because I wanted to only do a 10-part series. But as I close, I want you to know that is so many things that I learned in those 16 years. So many people believed in me and followed them in those 16 years. I don't want to take those 16 years back. I don't want to relive even the good part years. All I want out of the 16 years, for the bitter or the sweet, are the lessons that I can and did and do apply to my next and even future, and that I can pass on to those who are coming up. Because now I can look and tell, I don't know how, whether a person's going to be successful. Because this I recall even in my own life. And what I would say, whether it's business, whether it's your family, don't ever make the mistake of letting ambition be ambitious, do ambitious things, but don't ever let it cross the line of trumping your mission. Does that mean that which you have really been called to do? Not look like, not appear to be, but you really been called to do on a soul level. That's what I learned. And whether one agree or none agree, I've learned that it pays to stick to mission. Because the mission will win out when ambition wins out. Like, share, subscribe. We're beginning a brand new topic next week. I want to say thank you so much for this series. I pour my heart, I pour my spirit, I pour transparency, and it's talk therapy. Things I never said, things I may never say again. But over in Patreon, I pick up when I get this much needed call from Bishop Darrell Brister. And I begin a second of my ministry in life. Like, share, subscribe. Don't forget the Voice of Hope Connection every week with the inspirational words, healing words. Listen, if you missing it, it uploads live every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. WPBMediaNetworks.com. Don't forget to check us up on Wake Up Global TV, Wake Up Global TV. And again, follow me on my, what'd you say? Okay. Follow me on my social media at DJ Change 111, DJ Change 111. If you want to join Patreon, it's exclusive videos that I add in there. Don't appear on regular platform, regular YouTube, regular Facebook, but it's exclusive video. You will be blessed. Always something different, always something new, and stay transparent like only I know to do. Till next week, this is D. Foster 3, reminding you that you have a voice connected to it.
Thank you for being a part of The Voiceover. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay connected to our upcoming shows and guests. Instagram at The Voiceover Radio. Twitter at DPropheticI. That's the letter D, prophetic, EYE. If this show has enriched you in any way, please share The Voiceover among your circle. Until next time, keep allowing your voice to be heard.